Siberia, is an extensive geographical region, consisting of almost all of North Asia. Siberia has been historically part of Russia since the 17th century. The territory of Siberia extends eastwards from the Ural Mountains to the watershed between the Pacific and Arctic drainage basins. Siberia stretches southwards from the Arctic Ocean to the hills of north-central Kazakhstan into the national borders of Mongolia and China. Siberia is 77% of Russia, but has just 27% of Russia's population. Etymology: some sources say that Siberia originates from the Old Turkic word for sleeping land, or beautiful. Another version is that this name was the ancient tribal name of the Saburs, a nomadic people, later assimilated to Siberian Tatars. A further variant claims that the region was named after the Saɪb people. The modern usage of the name appeared in the Russian language after the conquest of the Siberian Khanate. The explanation that the name is derived from the Russian word for north has been put forward by the Polish historian Szyk, but this explanation has been dismissed by Anatol Bayakalov on the grounds that the neighboring Chinese, Arabs and Mongolians could not have known Russian. His own suggestion is that the name is a combination of two Turkic words, su and bir. History: the Siberian Traps were formed by one of the largest known volcanic events of the last 500 million years of Earth's geological history. These continued for a million years and are considered the likely cause of the Great Dying about 250 million years ago, which is estimated to have killed 90% of species existing at the time. At least 3 species of humans lived in southern Siberia around 40,000 years ago: H. sapiens, H. neanderthalensis, and the Denisova hominin. The last was determined in 2010 by DNA evidence to be a new species. Siberia was occupied by different groups of nomads such as the Yenets, the Nenets, the Huns, the Iranian Scythians and the Turkic Uyghurs. The Khan of Sibir in the vicinity of modern Tobolsk was known as a prominent figure who endorsed Kubratas Khagan in Avaria in 630. The Mongols conquered a large part of this area early in the 13th century. With the breakup of the Golden Horde, the autonomous Siberia Khanate was established in the late 14th century. The Yakuts migrated north from their original area of settlement in the vicinity of Lake Baikal under the pressure of the Mongol expansion during the 13th to 15th century. Siberia remained a sparsely populated area. Historian John F. Richards wrote, "It is doubtful that the total early modern Siberian population exceeded 300,000 persons." The growing power of Russia in the west began to undermine the Siberian Khanate in the 16th century. First, groups of traders and Cossacks began to enter the area, and then the Russian army began to set up forts further and further east. Towns such as Mangazyr, Tara, Yeniseisk and Tobolsk were developed, the last being declared the capital of Siberia. At this time, Sibir was the name of a fortress at Koshlik, near Tobolsk. Gerardus Mercator in a map published in 1595 marks Sibir both as the name of a settlement and of the surrounding territory along a left tributary of the Ob. Other sources contend that the Saɪb, an indigenous Tungusic people, offered fierce resistance to Russian expansion beyond the Urals, and that Siberia is a Russification of their ethnonym. By the mid-17th century, areas controlled by Russia had been extended to the Pacific. The total Russian population of Siberia in 1709 was 230,000. The first great modern change in Siberia was the Trans-Siberian Railway, constructed during 1891–1916. It linked Siberia more closely to the rapidly industrializing Russia of Nicholas II. From 1801 to 1914, an estimated 7 million settlers moved from European Russia to Siberia, 85% during the quarter century before World War I. From 1859 to 1917, over 500,000 people moved to the Russian Far East. Siberia has extensive natural resources. During the 20th century, large-scale exploitation of these was developed, and industrial towns cropped up throughout the region. At 7:15 a.m. on June 30, 1908, millions of trees were felled near the Podkamennaya Tunguska River in central Siberia in the Tunguska event, which most scientists believe to have been the airburst of a meteoroid or a comet. Even though no crater has ever been found, the landscape in the area still bears the scars of this event. In the early decades of the Soviet Union, the earlier Katorga system of penal labor camps was replaced by a new one that was controlled by the Gulag State Agency. According to semi-official Soviet estimates, although these were not made public in Soviet times, more than 14 million people passed through these camps and prisons, many of which were in Siberia, from 1929 to 1953, with a further 7 to 8 million being deported and exiled to remote areas of the Soviet Union. 516,841 prisoners died in camps from 1941 to 1943 due to food shortages caused by World War II. At other periods, mortality was comparatively lower. The size, scope, and scale of the Gulag slave labor camp remains a subject of much research and debate. Many Gulag camps were positioned in extremely remote areas of northeastern Siberia. The best-known clusters are Sevoslag along the Kolyma River and Norilsk near Norilsk, where 69,000 prisoners were kept in 1952. Major industrial cities of northern Siberia, such as Norilsk and Magadan, were originally camps built by prisoners and run by ex-prisoners. Geography. With an area of 13.1 million km², Siberia takes up roughly 77% of Russia's total territory. Major geographical zones include the West Siberian Plain and the Central Siberian Plateau. Siberia covers almost 10% of Earth's land surface. Eastern and Central Sakha comprise numerous north-south mountain ranges of various ages. These mountains extend up to almost 3,000 meters in elevation, but above a few hundred meters they are almost completely devoid of vegetation. The Verkhoyansk Range was extensively glaciated in the Pleistocene, but the climate was too dry for glaciation to extend to low elevations. At these low elevations are numerous valleys, many of them deep, and covered with larch forest, except in the extreme north, where the tundra dominates. Soils are mainly tabels. The active layer tends to be less than 1 meter deep, except near rivers. The highest point in Siberia is the active volcano Klyukevskaya Sopka, on the Kamchatka Peninsula. Its peak is at 4,649 meters. Mountain ranges. Lakes and rivers. Grasslands, York Plateau or Euro part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Geology. The West Siberian Plain consists mostly of Cenozoic alluvial deposits and is somewhat flat. Many deposits on this plain result from ice dams. The flow of the Ob and Yenisei rivers was reversed, so they were redirected into the Caspian Sea. The area is very swampy and soils are mostly peaty histosols and, in the treeless northern part, histrals. In the south of the plain, where permafrost is largely absent, rich grasslands that are an extension of the Kazakh steppe formed the original vegetation. Most of it is not visible anymore. The Central Siberian Plateau is an extremely ancient craton that formed an independent continent before the Permian. It is exceptionally rich in minerals, containing large deposits of gold, diamonds, and ores of manganese, lead, zinc, nickel, cobalt and molybdenum. Much of the area includes the Siberian Traps, a large igneous province. The massive eruptive period was approximately coincident with the Permian-Euro-Triassic extinction event. The volcanic event is said to be the largest known volcanic eruption in Earth's history. Only the extreme northwest was glaciated during the Quaternary, but almost all is under exceptionally deep permafrost, and the only tree that can thrive, despite the warm summers, is the deciduous Siberian larch with its very shallow roots. Outside the extreme northwest, the taiga is dominant. In fact, taiga covers a significant fraction of the entirety of Siberia. Soils here are mainly tabels, giving way to spodosols where the active layer becomes thicker and the ice content lower. The Lena Tunguska Petroleum Province includes the Central Siberian Platform bounded on the northeast and east by the late Carboniferous through Jurassic Verkhoyansk Fold Belt, on the northwest by the Paleozoic Time Fold Belt, and on the southeast, south and southwest by the Middle Silurian to Middle Devonian Baikalian Fold Belt. A regional geologic reconnaissance study began in 1932, followed by surface and subsurface mapping, revealed the Markovo-Angren Arch, which led to the discovery of the Markovo oil field in 1962 with the Markovo-1 well, which produced from the early Cambrian Osa horizon bar sandstone at a depth of 2156 m. The Srednbochobin gas field was discovered in 1970, producing from the Osa and the Proterozoic Parfenovo horizon. The Uraktan oil field was discovered in 1971, producing from Bendian Uraktan horizon at depths of up to 1750 m, which lies below Permian to Lower Jurassic basalt traps. Climate. The climate of Siberia varies dramatically, but all of it basically has short summers and long winters of very cold climate. On the north coast, north of the Arctic Circle, there is a very short summer. Almost all the population lives in the south, along the Trans-Siberian Railway. The climate in this southernmost part is humid continental climate with cold winters but fairly warm summers lasting at least 4 months. Annual average is about 0.5 AA degrees Celsius, January averages about a 20 AA degrees Celsius and July about plus 19 AA degrees Celsius, while daytime temperatures in summer typically are above 20 AA degrees Celsius. With a reliable growing season, an abundance of sunshine and exceedingly fertile Chernozem soils, southern Siberia is good enough for profitable agriculture, as was proven in the early 20th century. By far the most commonly occurring climate in Siberia is continental subarctic, with the annual average temperature about a 5 AA degrees Celsius and roughly a 25 AA degrees Celsius average in January and plus 17 AA degrees Celsius in July, although this varies considerably, with July average about 10 AA degrees Celsius in the Taiga-Euro-tundra ecotone. The periodical Weatherwise lists Oymyakon, Republic of Salkha, in Russian Siberia as having one of the 10 worst weathers in the world. It is a village with a population of 500, and it recorded a temperature of 89.9 AA degree Fahrenheit on February 6, 1933. It is considered the northern pole of cold, meaning the coldest known point in the northern hemisphere. It also frequently reaches 86 AA degree Fahrenheit in the summer, giving it one of the world's greatest temperature variations. Southwesterly winds bring warm air from Central Asia and the Middle East. The climate in West Siberia is several degrees warmer than in the east, where in the north an extreme winter subarctic climate prevails. With the lowest recorded temperature of a 71.2 AA degrees Celsius, Oymyakon has the distinction of being the coldest city on Earth. But summer temperatures in other regions can reach plus 38 AA degrees Celsius. In general, Salkha is the coldest Siberian region, and the basin of the Yana River has the lowest temperatures of all, with permafrost reaching 1,493 meters. Nevertheless, as far as Imperial Russian plans of settlement were concerned, cold was never viewed as an issue. In the winter, southern Siberia sits near the center of the semi-permanent Siberian high, so winds are usually light in the winter. Precipitation in Siberia is generally low, exceeding 500 mm only in Kamchatka where moist winds flow from the Sea of Okhotsk onto high mountains producing the region's only major glaciers, though volcanic eruptions and low summer temperatures allow limited forests to grow. Precipitation is high also in most of Primorye and the extreme south where monsoonal influences can produce quite heavy summer rainfall. Researchers, including Sergei Kropotkin at Tomsk State University and Judith Marquand at Oxford University, warn that western Siberia has begun to thaw as a result of global warming. The frozen peat bogs in this region may hold billions of tons of methane gas, which may be released into the atmosphere. Methane is a greenhouse gas 22 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. In 2008, a research expedition for the American Geophysical Union detected levels of methane up to 100 times above normal in the Siberian Arctic, likely being released by methane cloth rates being released by holes in a frozen lid of seabed permafrost, around the outfall of the Lena River and the area between the Laptev Sea and East Siberian Sea. Borders and administrative division. The term Siberia has a long history. Its meaning has gradually changed during ages. Historically, Siberia was defined as the whole part of Russia to the east of Ural Mountains, including the Russian Far East. According to this definition, Siberia extended eastward from the Ural Mountains to the Pacific coast, and southward from the Arctic Ocean to the border of Russian Central Asia and the national borders of both Mongolia and China. Soviet-era sources and modern Russian ones usually define Siberia as a region extending eastward from the Ural Mountains to the watershed between Pacific and Arctic drainage basins, and southward from the Arctic Ocean to the hills of north-central Kazakhstan and the national borders of both Mongolia and China. By this definition, Siberia includes the federal subjects of the Siberian Federal District, and some of the Urals Federal District, as well as Sakha Republic, which is a part of the Far Eastern Federal District. Geographically, this definition includes subdivisions of several other subjects of Urals and Far Eastern Federal Districts, but they are not included administratively. This definition excludes Sverdlovsk Oblast and Chelyabinsk Oblast, both of which are included in some wider definitions of Siberia. Other sources may use either a somewhat wider definition that states the Pacific coast, not the watershed, is the eastern boundary, or a somewhat narrower one that limits Siberia to the Siberian Federal District. In Russian, the word for Siberia is used as a substitute for the name of the federal district by those who live in the district itself and less commonly used to denote the federal district by people residing outside of it. Major cities. The most populous city of Siberia, as well as the third most populous city of Russia, is the city of Novosibirsk. Other major cities include Barnaul, Irkutsk, Kemerovo, Krasnoyarsk, Novoksitsk, Omsk, Tomsk, Tyumen. Wider definitions of Siberia also include Chelyabinsk, Khabarovsk, Vladivostok, Yekaterinburg. Economy. Siberia is extraordinarily rich in minerals, containing ores of almost all economically valuable metals, largely because of the absence of quaternary glaciation outside highland areas. It has some of the world's largest deposits of nickel, gold, lead, coal, molybdenum, gypsum, diamonds, diopside, silver and zinc, as well as extensive unexploited resources of oil and natural gas. The Khanty-Mansiysk region is home to 70% of Russia's developed oil fields. Russia contains about 40% of the world's known resources of nickel at the Norilsk deposit in Siberia. Norilsk Nickel is the world's biggest nickel and palladium producer. Siberian agriculture is severely restricted by the short growing season of most of the region. However, in the southwest where soils are exceedingly fertile black earths and the climate is a little more moderate, there is extensive cropping of wheat, barley, rind potatoes, along with the grazing of large numbers of sheep and cattle. Elsewhere food production, owing to the poor fertility of the podzolic soils and the extremely short growing seasons, is restricted to the herding of reindeer in the tundra, which has been practiced by natives for over 10,000 years. Siberia has the world's largest forests. Timber remains an important source of revenue, even though many forests in the east have been logged much more rapidly than they are able to recover. The Sea of Okhotsk is one of the 2 or 3 richest fisheries in the world owing to its cold currents and very large tidal ranges, and thus Siberia produces over 10% of the world's annual fish catch, although fishing has declined somewhat since the collapse of the USSR. Sport. Bandy, which is the national sport of Russia, is even more popular in Siberia than in European Russia. Demographics. According to the Russian census of 2010, the Siberian and Far Eastern Federal Districts, located entirely east of the Ural Mountains, together have a population of about 25.6 million. Tyumen and Kurgan Oblasts, which are geographically in Siberia but administratively part of the Urals Federal District, together have a population of about 4.3 million. Thus, the whole region of Asian Russia is home to approximately 30 million people. It has a population density of about 3 people per square kilometer. Most Siberians are Russians and Russified Ukrainians. There are approximately 400,000 Russified ethnic Germans living in Siberia. Mongol and Turkic groups such as Buryats, Tuvenians, Yakuts, and Siberian Tatars lived in Siberia originally, and descendants of these people still live there. The Buryats number 445,175, which makes them the largest ethnic minority group in Siberia. According to the 2002 census, there are 443,852 Yakuts. Other ethnic groups include Kets, Evenks, Chukchis, Koryaks, Yupiks, and Yukafurs. The Slavic Russians outnumber all of the native peoples in Siberia and its cities except in the Republic of Tuva, with the Slavic Russians making up the majority in the Buryat Republic, Sakha Republic, and Altai republics, outnumbering the Buryat, Sakha, and Altai natives. The Buryat make up only 25% of their own republic, and the Sakha and Altai each are only one-third, and the Chukchi, Evenk, Khonti, Mansi, and Nenets are outnumbered by non-natives by 90% of the population. About 70% of Siberia's people live in cities, mainly in apartments. Many people also live in rural areas, in simple, spacious, log houses. Novosibirsk is the largest city in Siberia, with a population of about 1.5 million. Tobolsk, Tomsk, Tyumen, Krasnoyarsk, Irkutsk and Omsk are the older, historical centers. Religion. There are a variety of beliefs throughout Siberia, including Orthodox Christianity, other denominations of Christianity, Tibetan Buddhism and Islam. An estimated 70,000 Jews live in Siberia, and there is also the Jewish Autonomous Region. The predominant group is the Russian Orthodox Church. Siberia is regarded as the locus classicus of shamanism, and polytheism is popular. These native religions date back hundreds of years. The vast territory of Siberia has many different local traditions of gods. These include Arkhana, Ainop, Bugadi Musun, Karakan, Kultisenki, Kini, Kukil, Nga, Newtonut, Numitorum, Numiturum, Pon, Pugu, Todot, Tokoito, Tumam, Kshayareksita, Zongit. Places with sacred areas include Okan, an island in Lake Baikal. Transport. Many cities in Siberia, such as Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, cannot be reached by road, as there are virtually none connecting from other major cities in Russia or Asia. The best way to tour Siberia is through the Trans-Siberian Railway. The Trans-Siberian Railway operates from Moscow in the west to Vladivostok in the east. Cities not near the railway are best reached by air or by the separate Baikal-Amur Railway. See also, Russia Portal, Geography Portal. References. Bibliography, Baitelden, Stephen K. The Newly Independent States of Eurasia, Handbook of Former Soviet Republics. Contributor Sandra L. Baitelden. Greenwood Publishing Group. ISBN A0897749405. Retrieved April 24, 2014. Bishar, Jamie. White Terror, Cossack Warlords of the Trans-Siberian. Routledge. ISBN A1135765,952. Retrieved April 24, 2014. Bishar, Jamie. White Terror, Cossack Warlords of the Trans-Siberian. Routledge. ISBN A1135765,960. Retrieved April 24, 2014. Black, Jeremy. War and the World, Military Power and the Fate of Continents, 1450–2000. Yale University Press. ISBN A0300147694. Retrieved April 24, 2014. Nicholas B. Briefgall, Abby Schrader and Willard Sunderland, Peopling the Russian Periphery, Borderland Colonization in Eurasian History. Aitken, Alexander. Internal Colonization, Russia's Imperial Experience. John Wiley and Sons. ISBN A07456735546. Retrieved April 24, 2014. Forsyth, James. A History of the Peoples of Siberia, Russia's North Asian Colony 1581–1990. Cambridge University Press. ISBN A0521477719. Retrieved April 24, 2014. James Forsyth, A History of the Peoples of Siberia, Russia's North Asian Colony, 1581–1990. Jack, Zachary Michael, ed. Inside the Ropes, Sports Writers Get Their Game on You of Nebraska Press. ISBN 008032190075. Retrieved April 24, 2014. Stephen G. Marks, Road to Power, The Trans-Siberian Railroad and the Colonization of Asian Russia, 1850–1917. Mote, Victor L. Siberia, Worlds Apart. Westview Series on the Post-Soviet Republics. Westview Press. ISBN 8081331291. Retrieved April 24, 2014. Igor V. Naumov, The History of Siberia. Edited by David Collins. Stefan, John J. The Russian Far East, A History. Stanford University Press. ISBN 008047270015. Retrieved April 24, 2014. Wood, Alan. Russia's Frozen Frontier, A History of Siberia and the Russian Far East 1581–1991. A&C Black. ISBN 8034097124-X. Retrieved April 24, 2014. Alan Wood, The History of Siberia, From Russian Conquest to Revolution. Conda Copyright Nast's Traveller, Volume 36. Conda Copyright Nast Publications 2001. Retrieved April 24, 2014. Yearbook. Contributor International Workgroup for Indigenous Affairs. International Workgroup for Indigenous Affairs 1992. Retrieved April 24, 2014. External links, works related to Siberia at Wikisource, media related to Siberia at Wikimedia Commons, Siberia Travel Guide from Wiki Voyage, Novosibirsk, the Center of Siberia.